Yo, what's up guys? Snap here. Today we're going to be talking about a few of the things we have seen from the Trial of the Ancestors reveal. A bit late on this one, I just got back from ExileCon. It was a long ass flight, so needed an extra day to collect myself. Also, pardon this mark on my forehead here. I had a really cool story, but in reality I just walked into a ladder. So anyways, I have a lot of thoughts about Path of Exile 2, of course, going to ExileCon. I'm going to be making a separate video kind of going over the experience I had at ExileCon playing the beta / demo. Regardless, I did want to go over some of the things that we saw in the trailer here for the Trial of the Ancestors League, some of the things that are relevant to party builds, and perhaps some new magic finding tech we might be doing in the next league. First things first, the league is an auto battler. You put some shit down, these guys go out and fight, and it's epic. I share the same concern that a lot of people did at the beginning, and that is what is going to prevent you from walking past everything and just blowing up the totem and ending the fight. I think it's my personal prediction that this is going to work out a lot like Blight. I think it has the most parallels to that mechanic in that early on when your character kind of sucks, you'll probably be interacting with the league mechanic and choosing like the kinds of dudes that are defending and attacking because it actually matters. Eventually, when you're hitting hundreds of millions of DPS, you're probably just ignoring all that shit, walking across and just blowing it up. That's how I see it playing out in the early stages. But yeah, you're going to be engaging with it a little bit, placing down like the right units, and eventually you're just going to be blowing stuff up, so it doesn't really matter in the end. There are questions about how exactly this is going to be working in a party, whether or not you get rewarded in a party. I have no idea where this screenshot came from, but somebody sent it over to me. I don't even know if this is fake. I just wanted to go over. Apparently there's an email. Somebody asked about the new league and party play. Chris responded that the new league is party play friendly. We really have no idea if this means that everybody's getting rewarded. I feel like in the past, GGG has said leagues are party play friendly. If I recall correctly, Ritual was something that was advertised as being party play friendly, but we all know the truth. Only one person really gets to shop in the window, and just because everybody else can view the window doesn't mean that it's a party friendly player league. Anyways, this is prize speculation. I hope that we can engage with the league mechanic. Very frustrating in the past that we can't engage with half the league mechanics that GGG releases because there isn't a ton of forethought into how it really will interact in a party. Immediately, if there's zero reward scaling of any kind in a party, if you're playing with 2, 3, 4 people, you're just not going to engage with the league mechanic because you're simply just dividing the profits by 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. I want to see kind of like a return to ultimatum style rewards where for the league mechanics that have 100% spawn rate anyways, I don't see a huge reason why you can't reward people who are in a party linearly per person that's in the party. Ultimatum did it super well. For each wave, everybody gets their own reward. It worked out super well. It was one of the most cleanly executed mechanics in terms of multiplayer rewards, and we haven't really seen anything like that since. Anyways, moving on from that, you do get the league mechanic access from silver coins in maps. Presumably, you should be able to MF these and get pack size and quant and stuff to drop more. So in a way, if you're MFing, you might be able to get a big stack of these coins to sell to other people. But at the very least, you'll probably be able to get silver coins and leverage party play that way in case the silver coins are a scarce resource. You should just be able to offload them to people who are actually just going in and blowing up the tournaments. So that's at least one aspect you can engage the league mechanic in a party. Now, let's say you've activated the tournament, you've walked across the room and blown up the totem in 0.1 second. But what are you rewarded with? Well, you've got these really awesome tattoos, and these things are really crazy, and there's probably going to be a lot of options here. These tattoos are honestly really crazy. And obviously we only have seen 6 or 7 mods here, and assuming that they have like a couple dozen or 30, 40, 50 mods, there's gonna be so many new ways to build your character by just deleting attribute nodes that you don't need to try and fill out stats that are normally hard to get. For instance, reservation efficiency. So far we've seen fire res from strength, some random summon spirit trigger, movement speed from dex, added lightning damage from int, and increased reservation efficiency from any attribute. And the last one, of course, being the plus 30 node, which you can only have one of each type, that being 1 on strength, 1 on dex, and 1 on int. This gives you +1 level of all int gems, which is also extremely powerful. So from the ones that we've seen, what are the ones that are most interesting? The one that jumps out to everybody immediately is probably the efficiency. Now, in the party builds, obviously the thing that you want is increased reservation efficiency on the Orobot. However, I foresee the demand of this particular tattoo being skewed in favor of solo players. With the introduction of Bubonics Orobot build, you need to run. So I could see yourself trying to maybe pick up a few of these tattoos to fill out some reservation that would be hard to get. And maybe you might be able to save some money trading out an implicit on one of these jewels for a tattoo instead. It might be cheaper to get a tattoo instead of getting a corruption. So I could see you getting probably like 3 or 4 just to kind of round out your build in terms of efficiency. But Bubonics, man, they're so fucking crazy. It's so much easier to get all the efficiency you need on your boots now. I kind of went through and tried to see how many attribute nodes I could remove. And on this typical like early / mid-game Orobot pathing, the one that comes all the way around for Champion of the Cause, I have these attribute points. I have 4 dex nodes, 19 int, and 9 strength. And based off the attribute requirements here, I can remove all of the int, all of the dex nodes, nodes I have and about 3 or 4 of the strength nodes. And I personally found it really hard to justify removing the int nodes that's removing ES. And also I found it especially hard to justify putting tattoos all over the tree, especially if we're going to assume that these are going to be costing maybe like a divine or something like that. Efficiency is a really hard stat to get on a normal solo build, and high-end builds are surely going to be buying the fuck out of those, and they're willing to pay a lot more. Aurabots, however, have a lot more tools and places that they can get reservation efficiency. It'll actually probably end up being a lot cheaper than the tattoos themselves. Now, that's my main concern, is going to be the cost. Now, obviously, if they're cheap and available, yeah, you just kind of slap them whenever. Try not to mess up your ES too much by converting too much in. It'll probably make your build a little bit more comfy, but I'm just guessing that the demand for those efficiency tattoos from solo players is going to be so sky high that Aurabots are just going to be priced out of them because they can get efficiency elsewhere. And none of the other builds really have huge pressures for efficiency, so I don't see that one being super useful. The main one that stood out to me was this one, which is a strength passive for fire res. Now, assuming there's an equivalent dex passive for cold res, there's a really insane interaction potentially here with Green Nightmare that I'm sure a few other people have already pointed out. This gives you chance to suppress spell damage at 70% of its value. So for example, if you get 8 cold res, this is converted at 70% of its value, which means it'll be 5 suppression. So essentially, each one of these dex nodes that is in range here can turn into 8 cold res and 5 suppression, which makes it really, really easy to 1, res cap. It helps with the carry res capping. And 2, you can actually get almost suppression capped. With the Lucky Mastery, you're sitting at 90%. It is something that was normally really hard to do, was to get suppression capped on the carry. And now it's like kind of an absolute joke. I simulated it here with this pathing on the Deadeye Sparker that we're going to plan on playing. There's 6 dex nodes here, and it has pretty efficient pathing out of the start. I just put at the bottom of the config to subtract 60 dex and 30 int for the +1 int and the 30 suppression. It works out super well. I think that the Nightmare Jewels are going to be the better interaction here. Not to mention, I believe one of them gives you block chance, so you can get a shit ton of block chance. This interaction is going to be super powerful if it works. I don't see a reason why it wouldn't work. But yeah, this Green Nightmare interaction is something that should definitely be on your radar for next league. Other than that, the omens are super cool. I think that most of the ones they teased besides Trash to Treasure or this whatever Omen of Fortune are honestly kind of worthless. But I see there being a lot of potential and a lot of really cool things you can do with these, especially if there's unique ways to interact in your map with these kind of things. I think this is a cool mechanic, and it's a cool way to bring back a little bit of prophecy. And honestly, like, these kind of things to me are really, really fun. So I'm definitely looking forward to see what kind of omens they're going to be adding here. Last thing of the rewards that they teased was the Hinakora's Lock. This thing is just fucking crazy. It's honestly like almost better than an Eternal Orb. Presumably, you'd be able to use this with Vol Orbs, which has historically never been the case. Like, you can't Eternal Orb something that's corrupted. But presumably with the Hinakora's Lock, you'd be able to see like the Vol outcome of something, which is honestly crazy. For like top end items, you're going to be able to see like what the Vol implicit is. Or maybe we just don't know how the fuck this works. But based off of everything I know on POE, I don't see a reason why this wouldn't work with stuff like Vol Orbs. I don't see why it wouldn't be able to finish the 6th mod on a high-end craft. Like, you should be able to see like what comes out of your Awakener Orb Slam. Like, there's just so many fucking things that this should be able to do. And that's honestly like one of the most crazy crafting power creeps I've seen in a while, if it works how we think it works. But yeah, this is also something that should definitely be on your radar. As for the uniques they tease, this fucking belt sucks cock. I don't know, like, I don't get it. This belt is just bizarre. I personally really hate oscillating buffs. I think that the buffs that they're giving you is like kind of cool, but inconsistency with those buffs is so frustrating. And it's honestly like one of the biggest pet peeves when I see on like items or ascendancies where I have like 5 seconds of damage and 5 seconds of my character sucks. Like, it's just bizarre. I hate the oscillating pendulum stuff, and I just really wish they would start moving away from that kind of design. As for the ring, opportunity cost on rings are big. Rings provide a lot of power. I just don't think that the life flask being used instantly is gonna like be a better opportunity cost than just rolling it on a prefix. Like, you can just get seething on a prefix on your life flask and then your life flask instant, right? I don't know. It's like normally you're getting so much damage on a ring. I don't see you ever equipping this kind of a thing. The last one is the Katava's Hunger. It gives you a shit ton of max life if there's no other life modifiers on your other equipped items. This is kind of cool. I think it's just like fills a niche that wasn't there, like a shit ton of life on one item if you don't have life equipped. I think this is a cool unique. It might not necessarily be super useful in a lot of cases, but I like these kind of uniques that have a niche use case for some build that might not have life on other things. And 858 8. Maybe this rolls up to like 900 to even 1,000. Like that is a substantial amount of life, and that can definitely carry enough EHP in a lot of builds. They're doing some wacky, crazy things that doesn't have life on its other pieces. So this unique's kind of cool. I like it. Sanctum's coming back now for parties. I don't think this is super relevant. Maybe we're all getting Forbidden Tomes to drop. You're getting like 6 times Forbidden Tomes. That could be cool. Everybody can start selling their own tome. But in terms of the Sanctum itself, it is honestly kind of a meme to go into a Sanctum in a party. You can do like the duo stuff with an aura bot, but honestly, you're just getting scammed. Like you're sitting there aura botting for somebody, like you're just getting scammed. There isn't equal rewards for going in. There's just like, I don't know, man. Like I just wish there was something you could do to, engage with these kind of mechanics in multiplayer. But yeah, I digress. It'll be cool to see the return of Original Sin and that kind of thing. Those builds were really cool. The no-hit runs were also cool. They were cool to watch. That's exciting content for sure. So it's pretty nice to see Sanctum back. I think everybody's happy with this. And I really do like the way that they implemented it and the fact that you could like trade each floor. Like that's super cool. You can have like bite-sized pieces of content, trade away the ones that you brick and maybe somebody else can run it, or it has like a mirror in it. Like I think those kind of things are cool. So I really like this implementation. And moving on to the Keystone. Now for me personally, this is the thing that gets me the most excited. Now there was something here that somebody in my Discord, I think DK pointed this out to me. There's a little tidbit in this text excerpt here that I don't think anybody really caught on because I haven't seen anybody talking about it. It says you can craft all side areas, become possessed by a tormented spirit, place a single gigantic explosive, or play any Kirak mod regardless of what he offers you. Now, we have no fucking idea what that means, but I think they're hinting that they're bringing a Keystone back that'll let you kind of pick any crafting mod. It'll probably have some kind of downside or some sort of condition that you have to meet in order to do it, but I think being able to use any map Kirak craft is going to be pretty big. If you want to put Beyond on your map, you put Beyond on your map. You want to put Delirium on your map, you put Delirium on your map. You're no longer at the mercy of just the random rotation. So that is something that I think is going to be really game changing in a super good way. For me personally, I think some of the enjoyment of a particular league would go like up and down based off of like what mechanics are available on the map device. Historically, like if Beyond or Nemesis was on the map device, it was like, oh fuck, shit league. Like, and it was just some like random roll of the league mechanics that they were putting on the map. This is literally RNG that's like determining like my enjoyment of the league mechanic. And so I think this change, if they make it balanced, like it's going to have probably some downside or some way that you have to meet a condition. But I think overall, like this is getting me super excited. Other Keystones they teased was the big explosion on Expedition. Now, this is obviously super cool for solo players that like to farm Expedition. Now, obviously, Expedition isn't a super good mechanic to scale in a party except for one thing. And that is, of course, Expedition can have some pretty crazy conversions that can happen, especially if you're like culling and you have a ton of MF. I could see Expedition actually be something that you start putting on your map, especially in Wandering Path farming situations, because it's super easy to get a lot of Expedition spawn chance. And you're no longer going to be wasting any time or wasting 5 other players' time, like placing down the explosive. You can kind of just like place down the huge explosive, blow everything up, and then pray for a conversion. And if you get a really good remnant, they kind of get crazy sometimes. You can get tons and tons of quant. You can see huge explosions of like 36 links, like 1,000 alts, 1,500 alts if it goes right. And it's just something that you can very quickly do. So I can definitely see groups start speccing this just because it's so quick. It's a little bit of a gamble. You can see some crazy explosions. And honestly, on Wandering Path trees, you kind of just like run out of stuff to take anyways. And so I could see maybe some people putting some of these points back into Expedition spawn chance and just taking this Keystone because it's probably pretty easy pickup. And then boom, you can just pray for conversions. So this is super cool. Vol Side Area 1, obviously we saw that the Vol Side areas can be re-rolled as kind of like the main use case here. They tease the Ultimatum Trial Master map, so you can presumably be getting a ton more of those. Of course, you have to wait and see all the other outcomes. Yeah, I mean, I feel neutral about this one. If you want to re-roll your stuff and go into a side area, that's cool. It's cool that they're adding good rewards to it. It feels weird that this is just on a Keystone. Maybe this should be a base game feature, like to make Vol Side areas engaging. I feel like it doesn't need to be a Keystone, but I mean, the mechanic is cool regardless. Destructive play is honestly kind of crazy. This is going to help a ton. Presumably the way that this node works is you should be able to get more Crescent Splinter faster because you can witness additional map bosses. Like the point of this Keystone is that when you kill a boss, 1 to 3 additional bosses show up, and then those bosses that you kill also give you a witness. I think that's how that works, or maybe I'm misunderstanding how this works. So you should be able to get Crescent Splinters faster, is my main takeaway from this. Last Keystone here, Speaker of the Dead. Now, this is the one that is most interesting for party play, of course. Now, this lets you pick up Tormented Spirit. Here you can see a clip of it in action. He picks up the ghost and runs through, and it's kind of like Sentinel, how he picks up the ghost and it's like beaming and infecting mobs. Now, if you have a gander at the amount of quant and rarity a lot of these Tormented Spirits can have, it's in like 1,800 to 2,000. Now, please know that there is a difference between mobs getting possessed and mobs getting touched. Now, shoutouts to Prohibited Library for this. They're a great source of information for this kind of stuff. And the best assumption we have as of May is that the stat value on the touched mobs is 800% increased mob item quantity and 400% increased mob item rarity. Now, this is additive with other sources of mob IIQ, such as strong boxes or league mechanics. The possessed mobs, which is rares, understand the distinction that white and blue mobs can be touched and rare and unique mobs can be possessed. Those have a much higher value of 3,400% or even up to 3,600% mob IIR. And the ghosts that you pick up can only infect blue and white mobs based off of the short video or excerpt that they had them running around. So we can have 12 additional tormented spirits on the scarab, which equates to 600 mob of around 800% increased mob item quantity, which honestly might be more natural drop pool items per hour than opening boxes with the Enraged Sexton. So this is quite an interesting prospect. That means that mapping is going to come down to choosing 2 of the 3 good mechanics, because we have 1, boxes that are super good, 2, abyss, which is super good, and now we have a 3rd competitor, which is torment. Kind of tough to say right now which of the 2 you're going to select, because you only have room for 2. You're going to put relic div scarabs on each map. Therefore, you only have 2 more scarab slots for the other 2 mechanics. You have abyss, torment, and ambush/boxes competing for those slots. Going to be some combination of those. That's probably going to be the meta magic finding method for 322. So it'll be interesting to kind of like test out those and mix and match those 3 mechanics to see which permutation is probably going to be the best. We do know that from last league, ultra optimized, max juice, max quant farming can approach around a 1 to 10, maybe a 1 to 11 drop rate on apothecary. That is literally doing everything where you perfect false of the map, you roll for +2 proc. It's going to be tough to see which mechanic is going to be replaceable in this setup. For the torment to be good, you obviously have to pre-place the ghosts or pre-prep the map to infect the mob. Now, we do have a build that we're cooking up that'll be able to do that. Basically just some heist runner with some modifications to make it extremely tanky so it can do it in 5 orbs. The idea is that it can go into a map alone, pick up all of the ghosts, infect the 600 mobs, and then you start the map. But the challenge is making that character tanky enough and fast enough for it to make sense. Anyways, moving on, we got new gems. We saw returning projectiles. This clearly marks the end of Vengeance Cascade as an anoint, and now it's just a support gem. Probably the right thing to do overall. I mean, Vengeance Cascade was really stupid. It was kind of like it was kind of pigeonholing your anoint slot into always being Vengeance Cascade. The mechanic is cool, right? But it always makes sense that it should have been a support gem. I do think that the damage penalty here is a little harsh. 70% less damage while returning is like kind of crazy. We don't know what the scaling at level 20 is. We don't know what the qualities do, so we're probably going to wait a little bit on that, but initial reaction is probably still pretty good. But my initial thoughts are, I think Rain of Arrows might still just be better now with this nerf, because Lightning Arrow was really crazy last league with Vengeance Cascade. You could get it online super early. But I imagine like Roa is going to be coming back in the limelight, given this is such a harsh damage penalty on it. I mean, the opportunity cost for damage is big because you're missing a link now. The other support gem we saw was Frigid Bond. This shit is just so confusing to me. GGG keeps adding link skills, but they refuse to address why links are bad and the quality of life that makes them bad. Link skills could be great. They could be fun and interesting, and they could do so much with it. But everybody refuses to engage with links and link skills because they're so horrendous to use. Why are they so bad? And why do they refuse to make any changes? It blows my mind. And then they keep releasing these link skills, and they make Guardian have a link ascendancy, and they still haven't fixed the quality of life on link skills. Why can't I target the portrait? It's so hard to click on my teammates during the action of POE. It is impossible. And if you're in a party of more than 2, you target the wrong person and your mana starts going down. It is so hard to sustain the mana cost of link skills as soon as you're linking more than one person. Please, GGG, let me target the portrait, please. And if you don't want to do that, then maybe set up some kind of preferred link target or something like that. Literally anything. Make it 1% better than it already is. And people will use the skills because there are cool mechanics with them. It's just they're so impossible. They're fucking impossible to use, man. All right, I digress. I'm triggered. I love, like, links could be fun. They could be a cool mechanic. They're just not. And I feel like GGG is really missing the point on why people don't use link skills. It's the quality of life. It's how hard they are to use. It's how costly they are to get up and running. Not that people don't want to link their friends. Anyways, moving on from that. Saw new Guardian, which is, there's a lot of changes here that we can talk about. One of the main things for party play that you can point out is Radiant Faith here from Mana Guardian got like an astronomical buff. This is fucking crazy. Before, it used to be 150% of your life reserved as armor and 10% of your mana as ES. It is now both mana, 25% as armor and 10% as ES, which is honestly super crazy. Here's a really low budget Mana Guardian. It's sitting at 15k mana. Mana Guardians can easily, with a little bit of investment, go up to 20k, and you reserve all of it. So that means you're giving your entire party 5k base armor. Like, what the fuck? 5,000 armor? Like, look at this shit. This is the Aura bot. It gives you 2,051 armor. Now, of course, this is before aura scaling, but it's like having a whole nother determination. Determination's already fucking crazy. So like, you're going to be pushing like 100k, 200k armor without like trying. And honestly, that's going to be the big change here is Radiant Faith. But as for the other nodes, Unwavering Faith gives you a lot of recovery. Before, it used to give you a lot of PDR. Now, this can be exceptionally powerful. I get why people are a little bit in shock that the PDR was taken away, but I think the recovery is overall a stronger mechanic, especially if they move this over to Scion Guardian. Being able to play a Scion Aura bot and then equipping whatever 13, 14, 15 auras, scaling that with aura effect, recovery rate is a really, really good stat. So I'm looking forward to them, bringing this over to Scion Guardians, seeing if they replace the PDR with a recovery rate, because I honestly think that would be a straight up buff. Harmony of Purpose is some link shit. Now, we don't know if the linked target counts as being whatever, the one that can benefit from the lucky damage, or if you need like a third person standing in the middle. If it's the latter where you need 3 people, you need 2 people that are linked and 1 guy in the middle, this node is honestly really trash. If it's the opposite and you need, let's say, the targeted person also benefits, then this Ascendancy is actually probably really good. Even with the dog shit quality of links, the Mana Guardian is still soul linking, of course. Having lucky damage can be like, what, a 15 to 20% damage boost. It's something that is extremely powerful. This Ascendancy is probably a pickup if we see that the targeted person also counts for the buff. Otherwise, it's probably shit. Bastion of Hope is massively buffed. I think giving everybody a chance to block, attack, and spell damage is extremely strong. This is probably going to be an insta pickup on the Guardians. So far we have insta pickup Radiant Faith, insta pickup Bastion of Hope. Now we have zero fucking clue what the Summon Sentinel of Radiance does and Summon Elemental Relic. Now these used to give you a shit ton of attack, cast, and movement speed. It also gave you Unnerve and some AoE. So there's just a lot of damage here on these 2 nodes. I would assume they're going to be giving us an equivalent amount of damage on these 2 Ascendancies, but hey, after looking at Chieftain, like, I don't know if they're giving us any damage on the Ascendancy. I feel like if they removed all the damage, this would be just straight up nerfing Guardian, which is strange. So we'll just have to see what these are. But I think that the 2 winners here are Bastion of Hope and Radiant Faith. Even if these other 2 keystones are dog shit, like the buff to Radiant Faith here is so extreme that I don't even think like you lose all this fucking damage. It doesn't even matter. Like the defense gain you get here from having 5k extra base armor is just so astronomical. I can't even begin to explain how powerful it is. The next Ascendancy rework is Chieftain. Now there's one interesting node to talk about here, which is the max fire res applies to max cold and lightning. Obviously, this isn't strong enough to make anybody go carry Chieftain or whatever. Honestly, the rest of the Ascendancy doesn't have any fucking damage. I actually saw Captain Lance talking a lot about Chieftain and how he thinks it's horrible, and I actually completely agree with a lot of his points that the penetration node here, or the lack of penetration, is just like you're always penning negative fire res on bosses, and so like this shit is worthless. The whole Ascendancy like doesn't have any damage. These 2 nodes are confusing. Tukahama gives you like a slam, and then this one's like a strike, and these like don't work together. And so these are like competing Ascendancy nodes. It's just bizarre. Like the Chieftain rework is definitely bizarre. And like I just keep asking, like, why the fuck doesn't this have Ascendancy have any damage? Like anywhere. There's not, it's like literally there's no damage. It's just crazy. But yeah, I don't think this is super relevant to party builds. I just found it very funny that they removed all the damage here. It's a boss kill event. We're gonna see Ben take away another unique. Drungo's on Twitter talking about some secret build technology. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe he's going to win an event, or Ben is going to take it home again. Yeah, that is most of the changes here. Once again, I will be making a more PoE 2 focused video going over everything I think about the beta, the split, that kind of thing. Try and get that out in the next day or 2. I have a lot of opinions. I'm sure you want to hear more opinions about PoE too. You love having people tell you what you enjoy and don't enjoy. But yeah, look out for that if you're looking for more solicited opinion. Anyways, if you have any questions, concerns, anything like that, you can always hit me up in the YouTube comments. Also put my Discord in there if you ever want to DM me. I try and respond to as many people as I can. And once again, I'm Snap, and thanks for watching.